Hey, g'day guys. Today on the channel, we're doing a lot of mounting. We're going to do a shitload of mounting with the Brumby. I've got a surprise a bit later on in the video, so stick around for that. Let's get into it. Here we go. Yeah, so I'm going to do today's video a little bit differently. I've laid it out in a different sort of format, so I'm just going to talk over a little bit as I'm doing it. So instead of do a bit, talk a bit, do a bit, talk a bit, I'm going to, I don't know. Anyway, let me know in the comments on whether you like the way I've done the format or just go back the way I was. Anyway, let's get straight into it. Here we go. Yeah, I think we're right. So with this body, to make it comply for ADR sort of rules, I have to mount it through original suspension mounts on the Brumby body and then make mounts on the chassis, which sounds kind of funny, but that's what the mod plate guy says I need to do. So that's what I'm doing. So there's 8 mounts that are required over the length of this vehicle. So being 8 mounts, I'm going to start with these ones here right at the next to the transmission, if you want to call it, mid front mount. I'm using the original TJ body mounts and just altering them with a bolt that goes through it into the where it goes into the Brumby body. So I've just used a few brackets and a little bit of flat bar. It's all fairly heavy duty flat bar, so, and then it's all fully welded onto the chassis rail, so there's not a lot of complexity to it. A little bit of design, but nothing dramatic. So now I come to the rear portion of the rear section of the body mounting, and I'm using the old Subaru tow bar, which some people might say, oh, well, why'd you go and wreck a really good tow bar? Well, it's not a good one. Anyway, I've got a spare. So this is the original factory Subaru Brumby tow bar mounting points. Now, they're only ever designed to carry 1,000 kilos, so, or tow 1,000 kilos. So I'm just cutting off the end plates off the tow bar, and then I can bolt them back onto the body and then make something from there using a crossbar to pick up on the chassis mounts, the original chassis mounts, which don't need to be moved or anything. So I've made captive nuts in the end of this tube, and then I've gone to a little bit of trouble of capping it off, making it neat and tidy, so you don't really notice it as much. And then also building these brackets. These brackets took a little bit of time to get the angles right, and the geometry is it's pretty complex. Woo. Anyway, so I got all the shapes and everything right. So I did all these ones without CAD design, so you know, does that make me any better? I don't know. Anyway, so that's the rear one pretty much done. I've just got to give it a bit of a paint job, and then I go to the other end. So now these front ones aren't real difficult. They're not real difficult to do, these ones, but I still have to make both of them. So I've used off the original front K-frame mounting point. There's 2 bolts that go down through the chassis rail or through the body rail, and then I've just made a little bracket, a little leg off the side to pick up with the TJ mount. So then all I've done now is just put a piece of flat bar with a hole in it and a little gusset around the edge to give it some support. So then that one can be all welded on, nice and tidy. Once that's all done, it's certainly going to be out of the way of everything, because over here is where the shocky mount's on. There's the spring, it's turned out quite well. I'm really happy with that one. So that's the very front one. So now here's the rear mid body mount. Now I'm still using the TJ chassis body mounts to do this, so all I've done is just use some more 100 by 5mm flat bar, cut it on different angles, a few little gussets, and I've measured between the two to make sure that nothing moves or while I'm welding it and things like that, because that makes it very difficult, especially with 8 body mounts. It makes it very difficult to try and realign the whole body. It's pretty easy with 4, and then you go to 8 and you hope that the rails haven't moved or anything when you've done the last weld and things like that. It's very, very tricky to try and get all 8 all aligned and all gusseted and welded and done. So, but I think I've achieved it, and so that's pretty much all of the body mounts. So there we go, 8 new body mounts onto the chassis. There's the very front one right next to the engine, one just behind the engine, there's one just past the cabin, and the original factory one, which I didn't have to move, I just had to make the supporting bracket. Anyways, I'll now lower the body back on, then I'll try and get these motor mounts all sorted and the transmission. That'd be nice. Then don't have to worry about these dodgy straps. Anyway, let's get into that. So I started with a few little bits of flat bar and drilled a couple of holes in it. They bolt straight on, and then I thought, if I just made it a little bit longer and then put an angle on it, that could work, and then I could touch the chassis perfectly. So I did that, and I made some more and put those bits aside. I never waste anything here, so I get to use that later. Anyway, so I made those, and then I cut out a piece of cardboard for one side. I've made it so I've used the piece of cardboard. I don't waste much cardboard. Anyway, so I've used the piece of cardboard, cardboard aided design, is that what you call them? Anyway, so I've used a little bit of cardboard to make up a few gussets, and they seem to have turned out pretty well. So I've just checked on the other side to see if they're going to be very similar, and they are. They're virtually the same. So I've just made a couple more, and I'm just going to tack them all into place, bolt them all up in there and tack them all into place, and then later when I do remove the engine, I can fully weld them. So the engine mounts are a little bit more complex. Well, they're not that complex, but they are. Anyway, so I've got so I'm using original AMC Jeep engine mounts with risers. So they're bolted onto the block. So they're still a quite easily obtainable engine mount if I ever needed to replace it. So it's kind of why I'm going with those kind of things. And also for those who are long-term watchers on the channel, they would have seen that I've done exactly the same thing when I built Zombie. I used the engine mounts off the AMC motor. Okay, with all the engine mounts all tacked into place, let's move on to the transmission mounts. Here's the base where it all bolts onto, and I've got the actual rubber transmission mount removed. That's the way it sits up underneath the transmission, underneath the gearbox. And I've made this little plate, which was one of these that I stuffed up earlier. Anyway, so it fits perfectly over there. Got the 4 nuts that originally come off it, and I got a little tiny gusset which can sort of go there, and no one will ever know there was holes there. So all I got to do is put something along that way, upside down, if you know what I mean. That's the way it's going to be, upside down under the car. So I just need something under this edge, and then go all the way across. So it can be actually straight. Because if I look on this side, this is where the yoke for the front one is, and we're about here is where the cross member can be, so I'll just put it straight underneath and we'll be fine. So I'll just find a bit of something and weld a couple of tabs on here, with 2 bolt holes there, same with the other side, and make it so it's removable, and then we're sort of done for the moment. Anyway, well, then I can actually remove the motor and transmission and weld it up. Anyway, let's get into that. Now the engine mounts are all done, I can focus on getting the transmission mount. And I thought, what kind of material do I use to go straight across? And I thought, well, I've got the leftover tow bar from the Brumby, so instead of wasting it, let's use that. Cleaned it all up and made it much tidier. Sat it under there. I've made a little steel plate to bolt onto the rubber mount, which is the original TJ Jeep transmission mount, the rubber mount. And then I've just sat it under there and thought, okay, let's just clamp it on and see where I can go. So anyway, I've made a few bits of flat bar brackets and things to bolt on, and so I've put all those gussets and everything together, and this is kind of the transmission mount as it is. So this was an old tow bar, now it's a transmission mount, and I've got to say, it looks pretty damn good. Anyway, so let's put it in the car and see how it looks. So this is it all done in place, and I've whacked a bit of paint on it. It looks pretty good. I could take it off, so all the other mounts and everything that I couldn't remove or was in the way of something, I didn't bother painting yet until I removed the engine and things like that. So anyway, so let's lower the body down and see how it all looks and give it a shake test. So this whole process of doing all the body mounts and engine mounts, transmission mounts, it actually took me weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. So whether you guys know or not, I still have a day job and I pretty much just do this on weekends. So that's probably why it's taken me so long, because it's been weekend after weekend, and then you have a function or something that you got to go to, and then, so, family life, things like that, you got to get into it. So that's why it's taken me so long to get into this one. To get it all done, and it's very fiddly to do all these mounts and everything. There's nothing's just slap it on and weld it on. Nothing's a bolt on when you do anything that's custom, especially if you're trying to do it properly and you want to road register it. Oh yeah, I was going to show you something. Yeah, hang on. It's another build I'm doing. I don't know why I need another build, but anyway, I'm not sure if it sort of fits into this sort of niche. So I'm not sure if I'm going to film it and put it on this channel or not. Anyway, I'll show you what I got. So here it is, a Mitsubishi Express van. How cool does that look? Now I'm planning to make this into a camper. So let me know if you think it's going to fit on this channel. So anyway, I'm going to film it, but whether it goes on this channel or not, not sure. Anyway, see what happens. Anyway, so they're all done. All the mounts are done. I told you we we're going to do a bit of mounting. Yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so all the mounts are done. Now all I got to get into now is the steering and the brakes, and we should have a rolling, stopping, turning thing. That'd be nice to drive shafts, and oh man, the list just goes on and on and on. Anyway, so follow along. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and you'll be able to catch up on all the antics and stuff that I do. So what's that video right there? The algorithm seems to think that you'll like that one. So we'll catch you on the next one. See ya.